Hello and welcome to Rise Up with Rebecca Seawright. I'm your host, Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright, serving the Upper East Side, Yorkville, and Roosevelt Island. I'm pleased to be joined today on the show by Jean Shafiroff, author of Successful Philanthropy, a guide on how to make a life by what you give. I'm holding a copy of this great little red pocket book here, Successful Philanthropy, and I want to welcome Jean Shafiroff to the show today.
And Rebecca, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm so grateful to you, not only for being on your show, but for all you do for the people of New York State and then our country. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jean, and for giving back to society and being such a role model for others. And so we're going to be talking about philanthropy today. And I thought it would be good to start off, the COVID-19 pandemic brought constant challenge and change, moving many donors to increase their giving levels in 2020 and beyond in response to the hardships. So I'd like to just lead off with you giving us a definition of philanthropy. I know many people feel it's just about giving cash, but it's actually about giving so much more in many different ways. So what is your definition of philanthropy?
Well, first, according to most dictionaries, philanthropy is the love of mankind. Now, when I wrote my book, Successful Philanthropy, How to Make a Life by What You Give, I redefined the word philanthropy to say that anyone can be a philanthropist. And what does that mean? Well, if you have time, money, and knowledge to give, and you give those three, for sure you're a philanthropist. But if you don't have the resources, meaning the money, you can become a philanthropist by giving your time and knowledge.
Great. So, during COVID, so many people were shut in, especially our disabled and elderly. And so our office, as an example, pitched in and organized volunteers to deliver meals and leave them right outside the doors in Manhattan for people. So you can give your time in volunteering in physical ways. Why should people give back?
No question, we have an obligation. And I do want to say that those that do have resources have an obligation to give of those resources. We give back because we don't live in a world that's equal. Right now, we have a situation where our middle class is shrinking. We have the very wealthy, and then we have people that are underserved. And those that have wealth, those that have time, those that have knowledge really need to step up and do something to help equalize things. And government, of course, is very involved in helping people, but the people themselves need to get involved. Business also is involved, and we all need to work together. And I think it's very, very important. For me, I've traveled around the world. I've been to places like Cambodia. I've been to China. I've been to parts of Latin America and South America where there's tremendous, to use the word, poverty. And then I come back to the United States and I say, well, we're very fortunate here, but we also have many, many problems here, and we absolutely need to have programs to help the people. So in a nutshell, I believe we have an obligation to give.
Absolutely. And there's so many creative ways to give, but we also have seen scams increase. And so we want to make sure that people vet the organization that they're giving their time and their money and resources to. So how do people go about researching different organizations that they want to be involved with?
Yes, if you decide that you want to volunteer or give funds to a charity, well, there are a couple of things you ought to do. First, there are 3 websites that rate charities. They are GuideStar, Charity Navigator, and the Better Business Bureau. And For the larger charities, most of them are all rated there. However, if there's a smaller charity, there are other things you can do, and I'm going to go step by step through what you should do. A charity first should be a registered 501c3. Otherwise, it's really not a charity. So if you're interested, say, in a charity that's working on breast cancer research, go to your computer and look up that charity, go to their website, see what they're doing, then try to look at their financials. Sometimes the financials are on the website, and then read articles about that charity that have been written about others. And of course, go to those 3 websites I mentioned. Another thing you should do is, if the charity is local and you have the opportunity to speak to some of the board members or some of the people that work there or people that are involved, by all means, ask them about the charity. So if you're interested in a specific charity, you're going to do your research, you're going to go to their website, you're going to ask others, and you're going to try to go to those 3 charity websites, GuideStar, Charity Navigator, and the Better Business Bureau, to look them up.
And if you're a senior citizen and you're challenged with the internet and your computer, every charity 501c3 has to be registered with New York State. So you can certainly call your elected official's office and we can give you an 800 number to call for the state. If you can't get on or don't have access to the computer, or you're not comfortable with the computer or the internet, you can certainly call New York State, call our office at 212-288-4607, and we will give you a number with the state where all charities have to be registered, just to make sure that they are legal. Nowadays, we're hearing more and more of fraud and scams going on, and so you can never be too careful in really vetting the organization, especially if they're soliciting you as a senior citizen and they're coming to you asking for money. You want to just make sure they're a legitimate organization. So how would a person go about deciding how much money to give a particular charity?
Well, that's a very, very personal answer, meaning that for each person it's different. And if someone who's very, very wealthy wants to make a major gift, well, I suggest that they consult with an attorney and get some outside help to make sure that the charity that they're thinking of donating a large sum of money to is 100% above board. Now, most charities are good charities. However, as you said, Rebecca, there are scams out there. There are a lot of dishonest people that often will reach out to people of wealth or people who are a little bit older, and they try to get money out of them. So you have to be very, very careful.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you agree with all of that. And then if it's a smaller donation, you have to give what you're comfortable with and give to a charity that you're comfortable giving to, and never feel like you have to give because you're being pressured. If someone's really pressuring you, it's not a good sign.
Right. You want to be very, very cautious because it should be your decision to give. And, a reputable organization that's not using pressure tactics or making you feel uncomfortable with the amount that you're giving or the organization that you're giving to. What does it mean to serve on the board of a foundation or the board of a nonprofit?
Yes, well, Rebecca, as you know, I serve on 8 charity boards.
Wow.
And then I'm an honorary trustee of the Jewish board. I'm Catholic, but I've served on this charity board. I did for 28 years because I so love their work and I so believe in the work they do. But if you're on the board of a charity, generally you want to do 3 things. You give money, and then you go out and try to bring in new people and funding for the charity. And then you might want to bring visibility, but you have to be sure that you really believe in the work of a charity before you go on a board. And so those in more general terms, they say you give, you get, or you get off the board. And you don't have to be on the board of a charity to do a lot of philanthropic work. I have friends, they like to give away a lot of money, but they don't want to be on any boards. There are other people who want to volunteer time and knowledge, and they don't want to go on the board of a charity. Also, remember, if you're giving away finances, if you're giving away your time and your knowledge, you must be treated with dignity and respect. Likewise, you need to treat everyone involved with the charity with dignity and respect.
Absolutely, yes. And that's what makes for a successful board of directors of a foundation or a nonprofit. And, people can, if they're trying to decide what organization to give their time or their resources to, they can follow their passion. I know I like to award grant money to organizations that support our senior citizens, the Lenox Hill Neighborhood House, the Carter Burden Senior Center Network here on the Upper East Side, Search and Care, organizations that also benefit animals and food insecurity. What are some of these 8 boards or 9 boards that you serve on, Jean?
Yes, well, New York City Mission Society, which serves New York City's underserved children. Casita Maria, which is a similar charity in that it serves underserved children. It's based in the South Bronx. I'm on the board of the Couture Council, which is the museum at the Fashion Institute of Technology. I'm on the board of the Southampton Hospital Association because I so believe in healthcare for all. French Heritage Society Board, which is wonderful and interesting. Also, I'm on the board of my youngest daughter's charity called Global Strays, and we send money to Latin American countries to help with animal rights. I'm also on a very big board called American Humane, and we are the oldest humane organization in the United States, primarily focused on animal welfare across the United States. So I think that's a good sample. Oh, also Southampton Animal Shelter Honorary Board. And I hope I'm not missing anything, but I do this because I'm now an empty nester. My children are older. And make no mistake, when you give, you get. It is so incredibly rewarding, the work I do. I admit I work a lot. I'm on a lot of boards. Oh, I forgot New York Women's Foundation. I'm so sorry. That's empowering women out of poverty. So these boards all help people in New York and then beyond. And my involvement gives meaning to my life.
Wonderful. That's terrific. And the Women's Foundation, if you could tell us just a little bit more about it. It's this fabulous organization that, if I'm correct, only supports women's charities, and they give away millions of dollars each year. So tell us a little more. Were you the chair of the board, or you were on the board of the Women's Foundation?
I'm on the board, and we try to create a more equitable world for women and children. And right now, a lot of women are having a lot of problems with jobs and healthcare, and then also child support. And this is not my own personal quote, but when you help a woman, you help a family, you help a community, and you help the world. And the rights of women, very, very important. I believe women should receive the same salary as men. That's pay parity. Women should have the right to choose with their bodies. And women need to have jobs, and they need to have programs so that they can be good citizens, and if they have children, so that they can provide for them.
Excellent. And the Women's Foundation is really one of its kind. I think it only exists here in New York City, and does such a wonderful, inspiring job of helping people around New York State, different organizations dedicated to helping women. I know the Feminist Press, housed at the City University of New York, where I served as their volunteer chair for 8 years previously, received money from the Women's Foundation because it's primarily the oldest feminist women's book publisher in existence in the United States and in the world internationally as well. And the Women's Foundation supported it. And I know, Jean, you've supported the United Negro College Fund.
Yes.
At their galas. And so what makes a good philanthropist or a good volunteer?
Yes, that's a very good question. Well, I think you have to have an open mind and you have to walk the talk, meaning if you're on a board, you have to deliver. You have to donate, you have to bring in resources, and you have to give your time. And a good philanthropist has a sincere heart. They're doing it because they truly want to be helpful. And they're easy to get along with. You don't want to go on a board, or you don't want to get involved with a charity and make trouble, because that defeats the purpose. You're there to be helpful, not to be difficult. And so a good philanthropist, of course, you have to be honest. You have to be a good person, but you work hard for that charity. And I say, a philanthropist, if you're very young and you only have a few hours a month to give, maybe you have a family or you have a job that's all encompassing, you can still get involved in philanthropy by giving a few hours of your time. Maybe you would want to read to a person who has a sight impairment. You might want to tutor a young child. There are a multitude of different things you can do. You might want to volunteer your time at an animal shelter, but you can get involved in the process, and it's going to bring you a lot of reward to your family and to you, just that you're helping out.
Right. And I remember, as I mentioned earlier, during the pandemic, our office coordinated volunteers for the Stanley Isaac Center to deliver meals to the disabled and the elderly that were shut in. And even in COVID, when we were all masked up and practicing great, wonderful skills of washing our hands often and using hand sanitizer and wearing a mask, we just simply had to leave the plastic bag with the hot meal in it outside the person's door. And where there was a doorman, the doorman would let us up. And so we weren't spreading COVID or coming into contact, but we were able to organize volunteers to help pass out that hot food to that senior or shut in. That meant so much. And I know that if you don't want to give cash, you don't have cash to give, you can donate, like you said, to volunteer. There are many senior citizens that would like help with their cell phones or their computers. So you can volunteer an hour or two a week. I tell our younger population and our high school students that are so advanced in electronics and phones to help a senior out with their cell phone. Just give them a tutorial on how to retrieve their messages or change their passcode or their email system. So, but how do we impart the lessons of giving back to our younger generation and to our children, Jean?
Yes, well, in my book, Successful Philanthropy, How to Make a Life by What You Give, I have a whole section on this. And I think cultivating the next generation of givers is vitally important. And it starts right from the very earliest years. And I say to parents, you can teach your children to be kind and to share. That's the first step. Second step, be a good role model. If you're involved in giving a little time, knowledge, and then resources, show your children what you're doing and get involved in an activity with them. Maybe it'll be a bake sale for the school, but get your child involved. And sometimes parents and children decide to get involved in a charity together. And the parents may often say to the child, well, what interests you? And let's do something together. It's a tremendous bonding experience between a child and a parent, and I totally recommend it. Another thing parents can do is get involved at the school that your child goes to. I remember being a class mother for both daughters, and I enjoyed it. Plus, I got to see what was going on at the school, and I got to see my daughters while they were at school once in a while. So there are a multitude of different things you can do, but start first by teaching good values. And those values would be sharing, to be kind, and to be honest. And then show your children good example.
Yes, leading by example and starting at a very early age with the school bake sales and PTA auctions and other charitable events. And I know there's an event coming up where a woman called me and said, would it be appropriate if she donated the use of her apartment? She was going to be out of town and wanted to donate her apartment for an auction for 2 weeks. And so you can donate your services. If you're, a dentist, you can donate a free cleaning, or if you're a financial advisor, financial advice. You can donate something with regard to your expertise. I know people that donate their ballet tickets and their Yankee tickets. So, but I do think that your chapter in the book on how do we teach our younger children to give back to society and the meaning of it, and leading by example and being good role models is certainly a wonderful, wonderful start. Jean, what are your priorities as a philanthropist going forward?
Yes, well, I focus on 4 areas of interest, and they are healthcare, because I think that healthcare should be available to everyone. Women's rights, very important to me. Rights of underserved populations, and then animal rights. That being said, I support many other charities and actually end up chairing different charity galas for a whole host of different other causes. And for me, really, my work is full-time, a full-time volunteer. But as I said earlier, it's very, very rewarding to me.
Wonderful. And I know, Jean, that you also give back into the LGBTQ philanthropy, having gone to Fire Island with you, to Callan Lord, and to Hedrick Martin Institute and the Human Rights Campaign, organizations now with our Supreme Court, our United States Supreme Court attacking and the threat of overturning more landmark decisions like Roe v. Wade. It's so important to get involved in different organizations and to really to branch out and think about the population that is discriminated against on a daily basis. And we were very pleased this summer to pass the Equality Amendment, which is an expansive equal rights amendment in the legislative special session. And I know, Jean, that's something that you strongly support, and it has to pass again, and then it'll be put before the voters in New York State as a referendum. So, but Jean, you're just such a wonderful role model and leader for all the boards that you serve on in New York, and passing that out on down to your 2 daughters. I know I'm an honorary board member of your daughter's Global Strays Animal Rights Initiative, and I'm always looking about legislation to protect our animals and our seniors, and what can I do in Albany at the Capitol in sponsoring legislation to prohibit cruelty to animals and our senior population. And so I want to just encourage everyone to read Jean's book. Is it online, Jean, or how could a person secure a copy of your book?
Yes, well, it can be purchased on Amazon Books and then Barnes and Noble. And it's a short read. It's designed to be inspirational and then very informative. And I'm very happy I wrote it, because I think it's really been very helpful to many, many people. I honestly don't make any money from this, but not at all, but I haven't made a penny, because I usually put it back into the book and then buy books to donate. So, but I believe that the idea is that we can all be philanthropists. We all have something to offer, and never, ever underestimate the value of what you can do and who you can be and what you can give. And during the pandemic, or the COVID pandemic, which we're still in, it was a very tough time for a lot of people. So many jobs were lost, and people stayed home. For young children, it was very hard. What we've learned is that we really have to work together as a team to help one another, to support one another. So, not just for children, but all of us, we need to be kind, we need to share, and we need to advocate for those who are underserved and who maybe have difficulty right now. People often ask me, well, I don't have too much that I can give. But sometimes you can do something simple like pick up the phone, call someone who you know is sad right now, or you can send a nice email. If someone is hurting financially, you might want to drop groceries at their doorstep. There are so many little things you can do, and every act of kindness really makes a difference and changes our world.
It certainly does. And Jean, you're such a wonderful leader in the field of philanthropy and educating people what it means to get involved and to give back. We've had a wonderful discussion with you, and both inspirational and practical on how to give back and build a life around what you give. And so I want to thank you again, Jean, for coming on our show today, and the roadmap that you've provided us. It's a reflection on the incredible symbiotic benefit to giving. So we just appreciate so much your expertise in this book, and living the life by what you give, encouraging all generations to be involved. Thank you again for joining us on Rise Up with Rebecca on the Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
First you go down and then you go